something that you learned 3 months ago, you don't remember that exactly. You know what I mean? You don't really remember it. You studied hard but still failed. What happened? So in today's video, that's what we're going to be talking about. If you're interested, go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe. And let's get into today's video. But before we get into today's video, you can go ahead and check the description down below where you can check out my CXC study guide. If you need a CXC survival guide and just overall CXC lessons, all those will be linked down below in the description. So basically, you studied hard but still failed. What happened? That's what we're going to be discussing in today's video. So the first reason, or the first thing that could have caused this, is you were not detailed enough on your exam. And failing is never easy, right? I know from personal experience, it's never easy. It actually hits you mentally more than anything else, because yes, oh my god, this is a whole setback, right? So failing, it hits you mentally, but what could have caused this is you not being very detailed in the exam. That's what could have caused it. It's like the person who was marking it, your teacher, and they were marking it, they were not satisfied, or they feel like you were too general. So that could play a role in why you failed your exam, if you were not detailed enough in your answers, right? And that just means that you were very vague, meaning that you answered the question but very vague. But maybe in the exam, that's all you actually knew. You literally just write what you know, right? And you couldn't find the details that they were looking for, or your teacher was looking for. So that's basically what happened. What else could have caused the failure is really stress and anxiety. And I know from personal experience. For me personally, I hate doing exams. I don't like it. It's just a very stressful environment, because sometimes you know the answer, but because you're so stressed out, because the environment is so tense, you're worried more about the anxiety what you feel than focusing on the paper. So I know from personal experience that sometimes the stress and the anxiety in the exam can really just overwhelm you when you're trying to answer the question. So you fail the exam and you don't know how, right? You clearly studied, but you don't know how you feel. And as I said before, the first one being you were not detailed enough in your answers, and the second one, now that your stress and anxiety kind of get to you in the exam, because maybe when you walk out, you don't even realize that it didn't affect you that much until afterwards. You say, wait, I mean, it just really tense in the exam and all of that stuff there. Another reason that can cause you to fail, even though you studied, is using the wrong study method. And I have a video talking about the worst study method ever. You can go ahead and check out that video. But basically, sometimes we studied and we spend all that time studying, and then we don't see the result. Because if you watch the worst study method video, I can tell you from personal experience that me going to the exam, in fact, I spent 1 week, whole week of study for that particular exam, and I read everything, but I never get to cement everything that I was reading. So that was a really bad study method that I used for that exam. So you don't really understand how important the study method is that you're using, because you can spend 3 months of study for an exam, right? But if you use the wrong study method, it doesn't make sense. And then somebody get up and spend 3 weeks studying for that same exam, but their study method was more effective than them pass, and you don't, even though both of you studied, right? And obviously you invested more time than them. So these are just some of the factors that can go into whether or not you fail or pass an exam. And as I said before, I really and truly know from personal experience that sometimes you fail, you don't know how you feel, you're still gonna replay everything, you don't know how it get to that point. But there are different factors that could have contributed to it. And before you jump the gun, just listen to everything I have to say in this video. So we talked about stress and anxiety. We talked about using the right study method, right? And we talked about you not being detailed enough, you being very vague in your answers, right? And you being vague in your answers, that's something sometimes we cannot help, because if we just genuinely don't know, we don't know, and we just try put something on the line. So those are some factors that can really help to explain why you failed even though you studied. So the next one now is burnout, and sometimes we don't understand how burnout can negatively affect us in exam, especially if you were studying for an extended period of time, or even just having a long term or a long semester, and you spend all that time at the coursework or submit assignments, and then when it gets to the final exam, you're gonna have no strength left. You're just tired, you're just burnout, you're just frustrated, you're just kind of fed up, you know what I mean? And we know this feeling from personal experience, because when we go through the semesters, it's like after doing everything, after submitting coursework, doing presentations, they're all over the place, I print and I go labs and everything. By the time final exam come, I'm tired, me just burn out from the months before. So that can negatively affect you in the exam, because even though you studied, your brain does not did it. Your brain is saying, I'm tired, I'm done with this, me just over this, right? And even the exams that I did recently, the last set of final exams, that's exactly what I was thinking. When I said I'm tired, I want to get this over with. That was my mentality, because we just so drained, so burned out from the whole semester. Like, we just want to get this over with, right? So that was the mentality that I had going into my final exams. Another factor that could have contributed to you failing, right, even though you studied, is you did not start studying early enough. That could have contributed to you failing your exam. And as I said before, the study method plays a big role in everything, because you can start studying even 3 months before, and if the study method that you're using is not effective, you'll waste your time. Because somebody can start studying in even 1 week, but their study method is more effective, then it basically, they're going to pass, right? Or they do better than you, and you say, oh, me I study from so long, but their study method is more effective than yours. And then the next thing to that some people don't realize is reinforcement, because you can start studying from 3 months ago, right? But when it comes closer to the exam, you need to review everything, because maybe something that you studied at the beginning of the 3 months, you don't remember by exam time, you literally forget everything. Because when you learn, right, when we learn things, and there's psychology to this, I don't remember the theory, but basically every time you learn, you push down information more and more. So it's like you learn this, and you keep on push it down. So something that you learned 3 months ago, you don't remember that exactly, you know what I mean? You don't really remember it. So that's another reason why that could have contributed, or say why you ended up failing the exam, right? And then the last thing, right, which it really happens, but it is possible that sometimes during marking they made a mistake on your paper, meaning that your teacher could have marked your paper, and let's just say that they maybe mix it up. Alright, let's just say when they're recording the grades, they could mix it up. When they mark the paper, something, we don't know, maybe them miss a section. And these things are very rare, but sometimes they do happen, right? And that's usually the last conclusion people come to, is that, oh, they made a mistake marking the paper. But sometimes it does happen, even though it is rare, because humans, we are people, and people make mistakes in marking. So if you really do an exam and you genuinely question and don't see how you could have failed it, then maybe you need to see the paper, have a go through, or request a remark, or go to the teacher and ask them about it and say how you can see this or whatever, right? So, but that is usually the last resort, or the last conclusion people come to when you feel an exam, that okay, you need to remark the paper, or they made a mistake. But as we said before, human error is a thing. It's a thing, and people make mistakes, so that's also a possibility. So just because you failed, it don't mean you're stupid. It don't mean you never studied enough. As I said before, any of these reasons could have contributed to you failing, and that is why if you fail, you have to just, one, find the courage, find the motivation to get back up, because obviously failing can be very discouraging. It really mashes up your head mentally, and then you have to just push and say, how can I fix this? How can I find a solution? How can I move forward, right? So you have to look and say, all right, was I stressed in the exam? Was it my anxiety? Was I vague? Or maybe that's where I really remember a lot, and that's why I made it end up vague. And the point is that there's different reasons, right? The why you could fail, or you know, if they made a mistake in marking. And as I said before, that one is rare, but it is possible at the same time. And yeah, but overall, it don't mean it's stupid. It don't mean you know yeah, it just mean that sometimes other factors come into play, or whether it be our anxiety, whether it be the marker, whether it be us writing vague answers, maybe something went wrong along the way, we don't know. But if you fail, you have to just get back up, find a solution, do over the exam if it is possible, or just work to do better next term or the next semester, right? But there's a lot of things that contribute and can contribute to you failing. So it don't mean you're stupid, it don't mean you don't know what you do. But sometimes some of us are just really bad luck. We just have really bad luck in certain situations. That's also a thing. And I believe that everything happens for a reason. So if you failed, just use it as a learning opportunity to get back up and just to work harder in the future. You know what I mean? Yeah. Anyways, guys, this is the end of this video. Go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe. And bye, guys.